Of course I use Symlinks, I'm not a peasant.
Hello, welcome one and all to the Technically Correct Podcast, the show that turns brain thinks on technology into words that you can put into your ears. My name is Mark Reynolds, this is episode 78, and I am joined as ever by fellow co-hosts Simon Harris and Richard Bailey. Gentlemen, good hello.
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 Hi everybody. Right, okay, so this week we are going to tackle a subject that we maybe, if we wanted to, could have discussed it earlier, because this has been going on for a while, but things have certainly intensified with exploding batteries, which sounds exciting, but apparently is very dangerous.
Isn't always the way.
Localized entirely within Samsung devices. Well, specifically the Note 7. I don't know a huge amount about this phone, other than it runs Android. It's ginormous. I believe is this the 6.3 inch one? I think it is, if I recall. Anyway, it's one of, along with the S, whatever they're on now, I presume, S7. This is like one of Samsung's flagship devices. It's been plagued by these battery problems, which I believe, if I recall, started like well over a month ago now, when the phone came out originally, and it was met with very good reviews, I remember. That's one of the few things I do remember about this device. Very good reviews amongst the tech press. Until they started exploding and catching on fire and hissing with smoke. And Samsung was forced to recall them. And they re-released a supposedly fixed version, I believe around, at the time we record, about a week to 10 days ago now. Turns out it ain't all that fixed. I'll put some links into the show notes for this, some appropriate links into the show notes. If I can dig it out as well, I will put a link in to a video review, which I remember seeing of this device before all of the exploding ensued. Not that that information is particularly relevant. It's kind of all negated by the fact that it might explode. So, yeah, let's get into this. Where to begin here, really? I think Samsung have, well, it goes without saying that they've got a real problem on their hands here. But I'm really not sure how they can solve this. I think at this point, the least worst option might be to just recall everything and scrap the phone.
Full recall. There's nothing else they can do now.
Yeah.
Given that it's the replacement phones that are now igniting in the same way that the original ones did, clearly they've not managed to find the cause of it.
Absolutely. I do. Obviously, you wonder if they've tried to rush it back out, because obviously it's costing them a lot of money, not only to recall them, but losing money in potential sales that they could have while it's on the market. So the question does cross your mind of, have they rushed this thing out? It's impossible for us to tell, let's be honest. But the longer this carries on, the more money they're losing. But I'm really not sure that they can solve this. Certainly not quickly.
Yeah, I'm just having a brief read through some literature about it. Seems at this point that only really a total recall will do the job.
Presumably the cause of this is entirely down, or effectively entirely down, to the battery in some form.
Oh yeah.
Because that's the bit that's exploding. It's not just random bits of foam just catch fire and go boom.
Lithium ion batteries are hard and dangerous.
I would like to hear more from Richard in battery intersecting interior walls.
I actually would be kind of interested to hear it as well.
Intersecting interior walls?
Well, just batteries. Lithium ion.
Yeah, they're hard and they're generally regarded as just inherently, I don't know if inherently unstable is the right way. I mean, obviously it's kind of been proved that through other devices it is possible to deal with them safely, but of all the sort of lithium-based battery chemistries out there, they are arguably the worst. And because of that, they do have, as in you can't ship them as cargo on passenger aircraft as you can with other types of batteries. They have to go as freight. Because of there's just a known risk with any lithium. I mean, we've seen it before. A wide range of manufacturers have been affected on laptops. Can't remember, there were Dell, Lenovo, Apple. They all got burned.
I remember several years ago it did used to be a lot worse with laptops. You used to get a lot of lithium-ion problems. Product recall seemed a bit more common back then.
Yeah, it's basically just exactly the same thing, and now it's happened in a phone. And I think you're always going to get the odd one or two, but obviously they've had a very distinct recurring problem with the Note 7. And then obviously the new ones have then had subsequent failures.
Yeah, I think, are we up to 5 issues?
I've heard, I got to say, I have no idea how reliable this information is, but according to Twitter, before we started to record, I'd heard of 5.
So, and that's in about a week to 10 days, if I recall, like I said earlier. So that's a pretty alarming number in that time frame. I think if you had 5 in 6 months, I'd be kind of going, well, that's kind of an acceptable rate for the battery technology. You can't expect perfection.
Well, it's not just technology device manufacturers that have been affected by this. It actually it bit Boeing when they released the 787. They had numerous battery problems to do with lithium, including, I think it was a Japan Airlines aircraft that caught fire. And again, they had a similar kind of thing: recall and replace.
Yeah, I guess from here, it's. I mean, yeah, I think we're all. I think anyone who's got any sense whatsoever would say, yeah, obviously they've got to recall these again. I think the question about what happens after that, though, is a bit more complicated, because what do they have to actually do to convince people that they've solved this problem? So if they do recall everything, they look at this again, and they take, I don't know, however long it takes, say for argument's sake, a month, and they go, okay, we've pinpointed what the issue is, we've fixed it now, the product's back out on the market. I think, are people going to trust them? Because this doesn't look like they've got a handle on this, and I do wonder how much damage this has done to the reputation of, well, the Note 7 and beyond that, Samsung as a whole.
Yeah, it really does raise questions about the handling of it. And it seems like they tried to maybe... Obviously, it costs them a lot of money, and they've tried to... I don't know, the way they went about doing like a partial recall and offering refund or replace, and then trying to have different versions of the same phone that were safe and unsafe, and then the safe ones have turned out to be unsafe. I'm struggling to keep track of that myself, and God knows how many millions of these things have been manufactured.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the original one, which was failing, I know that the final step was essentially they bricked the phones remotely.
And again, people are inherently stupid.
Yeah. And I suppose in fairness, a lot of people might just not know. I think a lot of people who bought the device probably heard nothing. They've probably bought the device, went about using it, theirs hasn't exploded, and they don't read tech news. And, okay, now, this is kind of in the mainstream news now, but the first time around, I don't really recall seeing it being reported as widely. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people were just walking around at the time unaware until their phone was bricked by Samsung purposefully.
I believe they did other things before the bricking, as in warning pop-ups, dialogues.
Yeah.
Which is probably, if it isn't going to be dismissed just because, ignore this, it's going to be dismissed because, it's just another pop-up.
Well, they should be smarter than that, than just putting a pop-up. I think they should have done the bricking thing a lot. Well, I think they should have had a pop-up warning and saying, look, your phone is going to brick in, I don't know, say 3 days' time or whatever. You know, make a backup, go to the store that you got it from, get a refund for now. But yeah, they did seem to just try and solve the problem by just letting people know and just going, that'll be fine, everyone will return them. And it's like, you're talking about people who see a software update and go, no, like forever. It's like, but guys, you really need to install the software. It's critical. Like the amount of security holes. Like, for example, like how many people are still running XP? You know, that kind of thing.
What version of OS X are you on?
Shut up. Shut up. Hey, the version of OS X that I'm on is still technically being maintained for security updates. It's fine.
Security sidebar.
Oh, okay.
A colleague of mine asked me during the week, or during last week actually, he said, you know about technology stuff. And immediately I'm trying to retreat, run away. But no, he caught me. He says, is there any way to transplant? I'm going to change the terminology to make it make sense, but is there any way to transplant my old hard drive into a new computer and have XP still work? And I said to him, I was like, when you go to a doctor, assuming you do go to a doctor, do you ask for leeches and bloodletting?
Oh, that's wonderfully apt.
He didn't say yes, did he?
No, he looked at me and said, well, obviously no. And then you could sort of see the cogs turning. And I was like, and he was like, oh, no, it's fine. It does everything I need it to. It's just for the kids' homework. I said, do you do online banking on that machine? He was like, oh, yeah. And then the cogs sort of got to where they needed to. And he was like, oh, where do I get a new one?
Oh, I must use that sometime.
Well, yeah, I said to him, technically, yes, you could take a hard drive out and change all of the hardware, and then you can make it work again, but it'll never be right. And although it's technically possible, if you're asking me how to do it, you probably can't do it. And you're going to spend more time in the long run. I was just go to XYZ tech website and purchase yourself a computer. And he's like, oh, but I don't want to pay for Windows, and I've heard bad things about Windows 10. And I was like, well, it's basically rolled into the cost.
Yeah.
It'll be heavily subsidized, and what you spend here, you're going to save yourself in time and possibly bank fraud.
It always amazes me the lengths that people are willing to go to hold on to their old operating system on a new machine. It's like the very fact the guy was entertaining the idea about taking out the hard drive and putting it into a new computer. It's like, dude, that's going to be like a non-zero amount of hassle. Wouldn't it just be easier to use a new operating system that, to be honest as well, it's Windows. Like, the UI doesn't really change massively. Like, for the average layman who uses their machine for word processing, spreadsheets, browsing the web, and email, it's like, you're barely going to notice the friggin' difference.
Well, unfortunately, I think they're still running a lot of bad feeling from the Windows 8 debacle.
Yeah.
And this forced Windows 10 upgrade has, I don't know, some tech things seem to be able to lodge themselves into people's heads. And Windows 8 was one, Windows 10 was one. It's unfortunate because now it's preventing people from upgrading when, my God, they really should, because Windows XP, despite how good it was, and it was very good, it should be consigned to museum purposes.
Yeah, I mean, it was very good when it was released, but nowadays, even if you could make it secure, I would argue that it's missing a lot of stuff now. So, it's only very good by 2001 standards. I think today it's, it's missing a lot of stuff that you would want. Obviously, security being top of that list, but even if you could solve that, it's like, well, That's not to say that it's not solid and functional, but it's just like, oh, guys, come on. It's been 15, 16 years. It's time to move on. Anyway, what were we talking about? Exploding batteries. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens to Samsung's device division and their sales after this, because I imagine, as far as I'm aware, this is like the only device that they make which has got like a ridiculous giant super big screen, which I know are particularly popular in the Android world. And so it'll be interesting to see where people flock to, given that I imagine some of them will be looking to upgrade, and if this device isn't on sale, then they're going to have to end up somewhere else.
Well, it's unfortunate for Samsung, because this could well be one of those lodges in the collective just mind of people, as in, oh, Windows, it blue screens. Oh, Samsung, it catches fire. If that's happened, that's unfortunate for them.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. It's like, is this going to tarnish their entire range amongst the general populace?
Seems very likely, doesn't it? Well, people still make jokes about the mouse that came with the iMac G3. Maybe a bit less common, but it's still out there.
Yeah.
Oh, hell, what am I even saying? People make jokes about not being able to right-click on a Mac, even though that's been possible for 15 years.
Yeah. I mean, if you think of all the kind of fake controversies that are dreamt up about every iPhone that ever comes out, because, there's an entire industry built around that because you can get clicks and therefore money. Last time around, to be honest, I'm not sure what it is this time. I'm sure they'll come up with something. But last time around... Oh, right, yeah. But that, in fairness, that's a real thing. Like, it's like that has been happening on a few devices, which is a bit of a worry. But they've replaced them all straight away, as far as I've been made aware. Last time around it was, it bends. It's like, well, yes, if you sit on it or apply sufficient gratuitous amount of force, it will bend.
Phone bends if you bend it.
And then... what was the one with the iPhone 5? Wasn't it like, it scratches too easy, the corner scratch?
Oh yeah, Scuffgate, as I've decided to call it.
And obviously the iPhone 4 was Antennagate. And really all of them were kind of bullshit.
Well, now that's funny, that Antennagate. Obviously I wasn't an iPhone user at the time, and they took steps to fix it. They offered the bumpers, etc., etc. Do you know what repeatedly and consistently suffered from exactly the same symptoms?
Literally every phone ever?
Specifically my iPhone 6.
Oh, right, yeah.
There was a very specific point where if I touched it, it just lost all signal.
Yeah. It's a simple case of the antenna has to go somewhere. And it's always going to create weak points, and every phone's got them. But at least those fake controversies only seem to affect... Well, I can't imagine it actually affected Apple that much, but the baggage only seemed to last for that particular device. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Samsung, whether it'll be the same story where it only lingers around for that device, or whether it's, this time because it's an actual proper serious issue, will it linger throughout, not just their product range, but perhaps even sort of next year's phones.
The problem, I think, is it's attached itself to the Samsung name.
Yeah. That, I suppose that's yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Incoming show notes link. The iPhone 4 is far, far from the only phone you had to not hold wrong.
Oh, I think I've included this link now in, like, at least 2, possibly 3 show notes on my shows. I love this link, and I'll put it in again. But yeah, don'tholditwrong.tumblr.com is a pretty smart little example of how all phones suffer from this problem. I like it a lot. Okay, shall we move on? We've got a few other things to discuss this week. Try to fit in a few subjects. This is something that can and actually has, and I'll get into that a bit later, affected me. If you have not upgraded to macOS Sierra, it turns out that your computer might auto-download the installer. Put a link in the show notes for this, which was spotted by, I think it was you, Richard, wasn't it? You spotted this story, I recall.
It sounds like something that would enrage me.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find the link now. Here we are. Yeah, it's 512 pixels. I'll put that link in the show notes. But yeah, it seems like what's happening is that macOS won't automatically update. But what will happen is that unless you specifically have auto downloads for the App Store turned off, the App Store will automatically download the installer for you, so that when you are ready to upgrade, it doesn't actually need to download it, and you don't have to wait for however many hours for it to download. I guess that would be Apple's reasoning behind this, but there's also some ancillary downsides to that, which I guess Richard is very keen to vent on. Yes.
I just, I mean, I'm open for you guys to convince me otherwise, but at the moment, I just consider this to be wrong on so many levels. I just can't even... It's not an app. You agreed to automatic app updates. You didn't agree to automatic software updates. This is an operating system. This is something in the region of... Do we know how big the download is? Multiple gigabytes.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
As an absolute minimum.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're trying to Skype. You can't anymore. Do you know why? No idea. Does the UI give you any indication as to why you might no longer be able to Skype? No. Of course it doesn't. You can't browse the internet. You can't watch Netflix. You can't use iPlayer anymore. Any idea? No, it just seems to intermittently, all of a sudden, for the entire household, oh, maybe the internet stops working. Maybe somebody's on a metered landline. That's quite a common thing. I don't know in the US or elsewhere, but certainly in the UK, a metered landline internet is quite common. And I've been in the weird situation where I've been on I believe it was a 10 gig a month landline metered internet connection, and I had unlimited 3G. My phone is incredibly restrictive as to what I can do via 3G. There's no override. I can't... Photos.app won't sync because, you're not on Wi-Fi. I'm like, well, I've got unlimited 3G. And I've got limited landline. So it's just that assumption of... it seems lazy. It's half-arsed and lazy, and there's so many better ways to do it. I just can't... I can't understand the logic and rationale behind doing that.
Yeah, no, I do understand where you're coming from completely. I get it. But yeah, I mean, so I'm still running Yosemite, which I do seriously need to address and will in the upcoming weeks. So this actually happened to me without me noticing. I mean, so all I can say for me anecdotally is I didn't notice any performance change, but that could be because the computer did it while I was away from it or overnight, or could have, I don't know. But I do know it's been downloaded because I did get a little pop-up telling me that I can't remember what it said now, but I can't remember exactly what the wording was. I'll have a look in my notification center just in case it's still there. No, it's not. No, it's disappeared. But yeah, I did get a notification from the App Store saying that I don't know. It was words to the effect that the installer had been downloaded for me and it's there for when I'm ready to install. So it didn't inform me before doing it, but it did inform me when it was done. I was like, oh, okay. And like I say, I didn't. Well, yeah, like I said, I didn't notice any performance issues. But that could just be because, like I say, I did it when I was away, so...
Oh, here's something a bit weird. I've just gone to the appropriate page in System Preferences. On Sierra, there is now a checkbox for install macOS updates.
Oh, interesting, okay.
So they knew it could be a potential problem.
I wonder if this is actually... Maybe this is just an oversight on Apple's part. Maybe this was an option that they always planned to put in there, but they didn't think about, what's that going to do if we implement it now to all the other users running the old system? And they just didn't write in the code that said, don't do it for anyone running 10.11 and lower?
Yeah, it just seems like poorly thought out, poorly executed, and just hostile to the users.
Well, I'll defend them a little bit. I think it comes from a good place, and I can understand the reason behind them wanting to do it, because it is when you do go to do the update, particularly on the Mac where the installer is obviously quite large, it can be really annoying when you go on and you go, okay, update, and it's like, it's going to take 3 hours to download, or whatever it is. It's like, it would be nice if it was just ready to install straight away. Now, my assumption is that's what they were trying to achieve. However, I will totally concede that they could have done this in a much better way. Yes, they didn't do it on machines if you had auto app downloads turned off. Fair enough. But I think, as you correctly pointed out, Richard, it's not really an app download. No. I mean, I know Apple presents it that way. They've always presented it that way because they always say, oh, well, the installer, is an app, and okay, yeah, whatever. You can present it however you want, but that's hugely open to interpretation. So, I would agree with you that doesn't really cover everything. I think really they should... I think the right thing to do was to not do it for this one, and then going forward, when you install Sierra, you can either turn on or off automatic installer downloads for future updates. Presents you with that option. That would have been
off by default, or it was for me.
Right. I think that would probably be the more appropriate way to go about it. But I do like to think that I think they've approached this from a good place, and they have actually tried to solve an annoying little pain point. But in the process, they've really kind of potentially fucked a few people over. For me, it doesn't really matter. I don't have metered internet. That's great. I didn't notice a performance problem, but that's me. That's not everybody. So, yeah. I think right idea, wrong execution would be probably how I'd sum that up.
Yeah, if they didn't have multiple other means of initiating that download, then okay, maybe forgive it. But you've already said they announced that it was completed with a notification. Would it have killed them to say, hey, let's do a notification to say it's ready to download. Would you like to begin downloading it in the background?
Yeah. And to be honest, I wish they did that more often with all... I kind of wish they did that with all their updates and software updates, because on a Mac, it's just such a pain in the arse because you've got to reset everything. It's like... it always pops up going, you have updates waiting. It's like... but if I install them, I'm going to have to restart my computer, and I don't want to do that right now. Like, I hate turning my Mac off. I almost never turn it off. I certainly don't shut it down. It only ever gets kind of reset. And that's usually when I'm doing software updates. And I mean, I am nowhere near as good as I should be with software updates on my Mac. I put them off. I get there eventually and do it, but it's just, it's because it's such an onerous exercise. And I use my Mac completely differently from my phone or my iPad. If something has to be updated on my phone or my iPad, even if it's something as complicated as the OS itself, it's kind of, there's no cost to me to just go, all right, yeah, just do it now. Whereas on my Mac, I've got more things open. I could be working on stuff. I've just got more stuff that I need to have open for the future. That I just, you know what I mean? I just don't want to deal with that right now. Please go away. Whereas my phone, it costs me nothing. It's like, yeah, just go ahead, just do it. I guess that's my issue with it. So, yeah, I like the fact that they're going to do this in the background, and I hope they do more of this stuff in the background, but I want them to be open about the fact that they're actually doing it.
Do you not do backups to your MacBook before you do iPhone updates?
Yeah, I do, but my phone automatically backs up every time I sync it anyway, so it happens regularly without me even having to worry about it.
Oh, right, yeah, so a software update you wouldn't lose.
No, I mean, because I'm meticulous and, panicky about these things, I usually will open iTunes and find out when the last update was before I go, yeah, go ahead, do it now, but okay. Outside of that, it's kind of, so... Anyway, I noticed Simon's been awfully quiet and just let me defend the position here.
And I'm sort of halfway between you guys. I think the whole idea of downloading the installer for you, letting you choose when to install it, if you want to install it at all, removing it automatically if you get low on disk space, if it was automatically downloaded. I think almost everything is fine. The thing that's not fine is to Richard's point that you may have metered internet, you may have it saturate your bandwidth. Like, this is something that I think is just massively missing from all desktop operating systems. The idea of background downloads that need to yield all available bandwidth to other things because they're just downloading in the background. Like, if I do something consciously, if I set a download going with the concept of it being in the background, but of course it's usually running from a shell script or something, difficult to read like that, so I can't actually specify that it's meant to be a background download and it's meant to yield control to anything else that wants it. So I just have to deal with my internet being slow while this thing runs out. And that's where it's one that I've explicitly consciously initiated. To have that happen on something that I didn't explicitly consciously initiate is maddening. Add to that the fact that I have had lots of personal experience where I've failed to stop the App Store actually downloading things it thinks it wants to download because the interface is a website and that is awful. Then you end up with a recipe for disaster when, with a couple different ingredients, it could have been a very nice cake.
Yeah, I think you bring up a very good point, which probably we should have hit on earlier, is that desktop operating systems do handle background downloads, by and large, very poorly. Like you said, there should be something there that essentially says, this is a background, non-essential, non-urgent download. Please yield any bandwidth necessary as and when. And it kind of just doesn't really happen. As you say, you just have to kind of put up with your internet being crap while this thing hogs your bandwidth. And, yeah, just get on with it kind of thing. And it's not great, and it's not exactly a hugely difficult problem to solve. I think, basically, what I'd kind of like to see, and it's going to be an odd analogy in a way, but you know how Netflix just handles bandwidth wonderfully? It just, you can be on the world's crappiest hotel Wi-Fi, and Netflix will still function and barely need to buffer. It may reduce the quality, but it'll be watchable. I kind of want to see that level of approach here to background downloads, where it's like, you've got to sort of read what resources you have and adjust the download speed accordingly. And I think that would solve a big part of this problem. I mean, the one problem it wouldn't address that Reg quite rightly brought up was the fact that some people are on metered internet. That's a more difficult thing to get around. I don't think there is a good answer for how to implement this.
It's quite funny. You know what does actually have, I wouldn't say a good way of dealing with it, but it has a way of dealing with it, and that is Windows 8 onwards. Because it's universal across everything, my PC has an airplane mode, and it also has all of the bandwidth management stuff in there for dealing with metered 3G connections.
Interesting.
I mean, it's a bit clunky to use, but it's there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thankfully, the one thing about this that's good is this isn't going to be a problem anymore after this update, based on what you've told me there, Richard, where they've got this checkbox now that is... You did say it was off by default, right, for auto-download new software updates?
It was for me. I had automatically download app updates on, and the checkbox was unticked for macOS updates.
Right. I guess we'll have to wait and see then. But hopefully that's the case, and it's not going to be a problem from here on out.
I was kind of in the most likely scenario, I think, for it to have defaulted to on.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't, so I'm going to assume it's defaulted to off across the board.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well. Time will tell on that one then. Okay. Wow, I can't believe it. When's the last time we did a show with 3 topics in it, gents?
1986.
It's got to have been a while ago. But we're actually going to get onto a third topic. I have this written down literally as Dropbox are asshats. Now,
did you use a letter R for the R?
No, but I kind of wish I'd done that now. Ah, well. Since this is an opinion that I've held for a while, for completely different reasons, I feel like I'm not the most impartial voice on this one. But I mean, where to
Dropbox?
Oh yeah, it's well known. Where do we even start on this? I guess going back to the original problem where Dropbox was, it was revealed that Dropbox was effectively hacking your Mac, wasn't it? I forget the exact ins and outs of it now, though.
They basically concealed the dialog box that allows them to basically control your Mac through accessibility options. They concealed the dialog that would basically ask you, do you want to? Essentially tricking you into allowing it full control.
Yeah, I think you could. It used to be that you could uncheck it, but it was written in the software that it would be automatically rechecked after a certain amount of time. So you would have to keep going back and uncheck it all the time.
No. It tricks you during install, and then if you untick it, it then constantly bugs you during startup every time.
Ah, okay. So another reason to not shut down your computer ever.
Yeah, and then I'm not so sure about the details of the rest of it, but I've heard or read stuff about they're apparently trialing some toolbar kind of stuff, and it's all sounding very Yahoo toolbar. And
oh God,
it all. Yeah, don't mention Yahoo, Jesus Christ.
I'd forgotten Yahoo toolbar used to be a thing. That's amazing.
That whole brand now is just a dumpster fire.
Yeah, it is.
So basically, the thing that concerns me, I wouldn't say rely, but I use Dropbox quite heavily, and I would miss it if it went. Now, the thing that concerns me is, obviously, I'm seeing this, what I would describe as a long, continual degradation of standards. And that concerns me, because I'm thinking, right, okay, it's time to dust off Plan B.
Yeah, I mean,
No.
I would maybe go one step further than that. I would maybe say it's not even necessarily a degradation of standards. It's a degradation of morals.
Yeah, kind of. Whatever you term it. There's a trend. There is a trend,
yeah.
and it is down, and it is not good. Because up until now, I've always regarded Dropbox to be sort of the pinnacle of good. It just works. You install it, your files go into it, and they come out the other side, and they're perfect and pristine, and it works every time without fail.
Yeah, it doesn't, but carry on.
Yeah, sure. No one cares.
Yeah. Mark's the only one that has these problems. Where.
So that's great. And then for all of my technology stuff, I like to think I have quite a robust sort of backup, coping, failure, etc. strategy. So dust off plan B. It's time to look. What do we do? Well, now then, I guess it turns into the Reg Asks for Advice podcast, because what options do I have? iCloud Drive is terrible, and anything that goes into it does not come out the other side without being mangled. In fact, more things are now mangled than are unmangled. Just a prime example, the new update to Pages. I thought, let's give this a whirl. Let's see what this is like. I've already got a blank Pages document I created in iCloud the last time they updated Pages. Let's open it. Unspecified error. It's a blank fucking document. I can open Word documents from, like, I don't know, the early 90s without an issue. As in, I reckon you could take a Word document straight from Windows 3.1 onto a Windows 10 machine and open it. Hell, you could probably take it onto a Mac and open it. So, it's a blank Pages document. How the hell can't that... Anyway, iCloud Drive, completely out of the question. Can't handle any single type of file, including files made by the company that created it, without corrupting them. So, out of the question.
Yeah, I'm with you on iCloud Drive. It's best case scenario, iCloud Drive is as unreliable as Dropbox is for me. So
something wrong with your Mac.
That's best case scenario.
There is something wrong with it. It's still running Yosemite.
Not for much longer, I promise.
We've got OneDrive, where, okay, technically it works. I believe the files will come out the other end, but the interface is a bit awful. And I've heard bad things about the Mac client just chewing up CPU. So I thought, Backblaze, they offer B2. Nope, that's enterprise level cloud storage. Apparently it can save me $204,000. Fantastic. I'm trying to think of... I had a Google search for stuff out there, and there's a couple of alternatives, but they all seem small.
What about OneDrive?
Yeah, I just mentioned that. Its interface is a bit weird, and
okay.
Their Mac client isn't well regarded. I mean, Amazon do cloud storage. I'm with BT, and apparently I get 100 gig of cloud storage through them, but God knows how you'd access it. I don't even want to know.
Amazon doesn't do cloud. I mean, they've got AWS, but that's kind of enterprisey, as you alluded to earlier. I
thought they did like customer cloud storage. I thought they did.
They have Amazon Glacier, which is designed for things where you just want to archive it, so you can just send them gigs and gigs and gigs and gigs and gigs, and they'll store it cheaply and low cost at the trade-off of it takes a while to get it back. I think what they do is they literally just burn it all into Blu-ray.
They do have a product called Amazon Drive.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Now,
I don't know this.
If I log into Amazon, I've got a Prime subscription. So if I log in, I get if I go into your Amazon Drive, it says your Amazon Prime membership comes with Amazon Prime Photos, unlimited photo storage, and 5 gigabytes for videos, music, and other files. for unlimited storage, which you can start a 3-month free trial on if you wanted to give it a go. It's £55 a year.
See, that's half the problem with Amazon. It's decoding and deciphering their UI.
They have so many products, and they're all hidden in. Oh, it's just terrible. Amazon's ridiculous.
I've never once managed. I mean, I get it free with my Prime subscription to watch an Amazon Instant Video.
Yeah.
I don't know what charm I have to do or what kind of token I have to bless to get the goddamn thing to give me video. But
you're not really missing out, trust me. There's very little good stuff on there.
See, half the time, I don't know if I'm just not using the website properly. That shouldn't even be a thing. But, or whether it's actually just not on there. I never know. Unfortunately, they've taken a guide from Apple's style guide. They've taken
of show nothing ever.
Yeah, just.
I mean, I get. It'll be interesting. I might. I don't know if you're going to try this Amazon Drive out, Reg. Just, I mean, like you get. It's a 3-month free trial, so if you wanted to give it a go, you could at least try it. But I mean, I have been considering using it myself recently, just because I didn't actually know it was called Amazon Drive. I just knew they did some. I just knew I got unlimited cloud photo storage with my Prime plan. So I was thinking about this as a tertiary backup for my photos. So I may give it a go. I don't know.
There's Google Drive.
Oh, fuck that. I'm not putting anything in Google. No.
There's BT offered cloud storage. Apparently, I have that. No idea how to access it.
Yeah, but it's BT, man. You don't know.
Exactly. This is the company that struggled to install a phone line.
Yeah, when their primary job is installing and maintaining phone lines.
Oh God, if you talk to them, you wouldn't think so. I actually bought, when I was having my hard drive failure domino disaster, I bought a USB 3 external drive, and that apparently came, I think it could have been a Western Digital, maybe, who cares, they're all the same. That apparently came with a bundle of cloud storage. Again, no mention of how to access it.
What?
Yeah, I bought a hard drive and it came with cloud storage.
Mine did this as well.
Hang on. When they say the hard drive came with cloud storage, did they really mean the hard drive has been packed in a highly misty atmosphere?
No, I got a receipt and a coupon of some kind to redeem against cloud storage of some form.
What the hell?
Mine did as well. I bought 2 Seagate 2 terabyte hard drives earlier this year, and both of them came with a free OneDrive subscription. For free cloud storage.
At least OneDrive is a thing where I know what it is.
Oh, okay.
Okay, OneDrive is Microsoft's cloud storage. They pay for it for you for a bit. I want to know what this presumably Western Digital cloud stuff was, or whoever came with it. It just came with cloud storage.
I can't remember. I can't remember if it was on the box or if it was on the receipt.
Did it have air quotes around it?
It might well have done. I just looked at it and shrugged.
Well, let's be honest. It's cloud storage, so if the air quotes aren't there, I just immediately put them there. That's what my brain does. Around the storage specifically, as soon as I see cloud, I'm like, no. Needless to say, I did not take up the OneDrive free for a year thing or whatever it was.
No.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe try this Amazon Drive.
Well, I don't know. I've just tried installing Google Drive just to see what the UI is like, and I've downloaded and installed an app, but when I start it, it just loads the website.
Yeah, because it's Google. It's like, everything in the browser. It's like, no. Fuck off. I don't want everything running in my browser.
Hang on. Sorry, I've just realised that we've done it again. We've veered the Technically Correct podcast into a rant about the cloud.
It's what we do.
Yeah. Let me just, if I can just pitch in my 2 cents. What were we even talking about?
Well, just before we go any further, can I
Dropbox.
suggest that we rename the podcast to Cloudy with a Chance of Cynicism? You know, just like that movie that... yeah, anyway, carry on.
No, but really, what were we talking about? I genuinely can't remember.
Oh, we were talking about Dropbox and them generally being shits, which we probably should get back to.
We should. Before we do, let me just drop in my 2 cents on the whole cloud thing.
Yeah.
I want the record to show this is why I'm becoming a tech hermit. This is why I'm moving to more stuff self-hosted. Because the thing that I use and like, Dropbox, is going away. And the thing I don't like and want dead in this subset of the tech industry, Linux, is going to be around forever. So I might as well get comfortable in the bed of nails and just host as much stuff as I can myself. And I want to recommend that to other people because I think it's the most sustainable way, but for many people, the amount of technical knowledge you need to get to that point is unacceptable, and I fully agree. But I'm already in that arena in both my job and my tech hobby stuff, so for me, it seems like the obvious choice.
Yeah, I mean, it is. Effectively. For you, I think you're right. But yeah, pretty extreme solution, but what else are you going to do? I'm just glad that I don't really feel the need to have any kind of mass cloud storage. Because I hate it. I just really hate it. And this Dropbox fiasco is just another problem that I guess was kind of inevitable. I mean, not this particular implementation where it turns out that Dropbox have been proper bastards about it, but something was just bound to go wrong eventually. I mean, there are just so few good options out there in the world of the cloud. It was always going to become an issue. As soon as... I think everyone was kind of in agreement that Dropbox, whilst it wasn't perfect, was reliable and seemed to be in it for the long haul. You know, they had offers to be bought by other companies, most famously Apple, way back in the day, and they've resisted. But I don't know, ever since they did things like buying Mailbox and then just sunsetting it,
killing it.
Yeah, exactly. And they did the same with their photo backup product as well, that Carousel, which they just shit canned.
Oh, yeah.
And you're thinking, okay, and that's all well and good, but what happens when it gets, what happens when something goes wrong with their core product? Okay, maybe they don't shit can it, but maybe they do something nefarious like this. I mean, now it's at the point, as you'll see from the links in the show notes, now it's at the point where they've done some crazy UI stuff. So they've effectively removed the option to even uncheck a box. They've overridden Finder effectively. So they've seen, there's been a problem. It's been reported within the tech community. Dropbox must have seen it, and their solution to the problem is make it worse. So I don't know what's going on here, but there must be a reason that they want to do this, and I don't know. I don't feel comfortable.
I think it's just complacency. It's the kind of thing that history should have taught us, that anyone in a dominant and comfortable position becomes complacent and lazy.
Yeah. That's what really worries me, because Apple is so bad at the cloud that they haven't really got a viable competitive product. And Microsoft, OneDrive could be amazing. It's not, from what you tell me, Richard. I've never used it myself, but OneDrive could be the best product in the world. Wonderfully conceived, conceptually fantastic, really, really cheap. Could tick all of those boxes. The problem is it's got Microsoft affixed to the name, which is immediately, for the wrong reasons, going to put off a lot of people, which limits its ability to be successful. So, Amazon Drive, most people probably don't even know it exists. We barely knew it existed. AWS is, by all accounts, fantastic, but very much an enterprise piece of kit. So, you're right. Dropbox has just been standing around going, stomping around going, stomping all over the competition, going, we're great, we can do whatever the hell we want, and eventually they were just going to get fat and lazy and complacent. And maybe that's what this is. Maybe this is the manifestation of that.
The problem here. The reason I want this cloud storage is I want my Lightroom catalogs to sync between my Mac and my PC.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who technically offers cloud storage but refuses to sell it?
Adobe.
Yeah, it's Adobe.
I freaking hate Adobe. I hate them so much.
All the shit that they add to Lightroom and Photoshop, will they add any kind of sync? Oh, hell will they.
No, you don't need that, mate.
Have you considered syncing them over the local network? Don't tell me that's literally a new idea to you. Please don't tell me that.
Yes and no. Previously, my solution, one of the sort of, what's the word? One of the principles of operation had to be able to operate reliably and continuously for extended periods of time without hardwired or Wi-Fi connection between the two machines.
Mm-hmm.
However, now I live in a house with Wi-Fi. I could possibly, to be able to move away from Dropbox, I could possibly negate that requirement. Oh, should also mention the other thing that Dropbox do apparently that isn't good is they monitor all file system I/O, even stuff not in the Dropbox folder, which, apart from the performance deficit of that, is a bad thing. Literally every file, apparently. Every file system I/O operation.
Guys, can we stop using Dropbox for the podcast? Like, it's the only reason I even have it. I could get rid of this piece of shit if...
Yes, if something happens, something really technical and uninteresting, but it's actually stopping me from changing our internal workflow for the better, including things like you could upload the audio direct to me in my house, and I have a way of doing that. I just can't deploy it yet because of other stupid reasons aren't worth getting into. I think it just all feeds back to the idea of everyone just goes, the cloud is fine. No, the cloud is terrible.
The cloud is god awful. And I kind of really don't care that we've just done another episode where we've ended in a cloud rant. I feel at this point it's our calling card, and I am comfortable with that.
All right, let me take one last pivot back to Dropbox.
Okay.
Two things. One, this makes me really wish for a company that does not want continual growth, because that's when the problems seem to start.
Amen to that.
Yeah, 100%.
Point number two, right now I'm remaining optimistic in that Dropbox hopefully realise they've stepped over the line and will not do this again. I can't say for sure whether that's actually what's going to happen, but I am holding my breath.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think that's what we all really want to see, isn't it? We all really want to see this sort of a U-turn, effectively, is what we want. Whether we get it or not, I don't know. But to a degree, the damage is kind of done. Even if they do a U-turn, I'll be constantly thinking, what other nefarious shit are they getting up to that they're not telling us about? It's part of the problem with software, is as soon as one error, well, not error, as soon as one decision, morally questionable decision is made over a piece of software and is discovered, it's always kind of in the back of your mind of, are they doing that again? And it's tough to shake that, but I don't know, it's only a problem for people like us because most people don't care. Most people either don't care or don't understand, or both. So I just worry that this is only going to get worse and creep into more areas of software than we can even imagine in the years to come. which makes me sad and also think maybe I'm going to turn into a hermit just like Simon. It's just going to take an extra 5 or 10 years before it starts happening to me. I don't know. At this point,
I will offer you classes.
Anyway, let's end the show right there, shall we? This has been episode 78 of the Technically Correct podcast. Thank you very much for joining us. You can follow us on Twitter. We are at TechCorrect. But better than that, you can subscribe to the podcast. That's what you should do. Just search for us in your podcast app of choice. We are the Technically Correct podcast. That search should yield the correct result. Hit that subscribe button, and then you can get our show into your podcast app every 2 weeks. Alternatively, you can find links for the RSS feed for subscription on the website. Show notes for this particular episode can be found at tcp.fm/episodes/78. My name is Mark Reynolds. I am on Twitter at _Mark Reynolds. My website is markreynolds.co, and my co-hosts are Richard Bailey and Simon Harris. Richard is on Twitter at Captain_Reg, and you can view his photography work at his website, richardbailey.uk. Simon has the Twitter handle at Pearfalse and still has no fixed abode on the interweb.
It smells of cloud. I don't want one.
Guys, thank you very much for listening once again. We hope you'll join us again next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. See, now I have OneDrive, Google Drive, Dropbox installed on my Mac.
Now I have all the bad products.
I'm going to be that guy who had 7 sat-navs in his car. I might try putting all of the folders into each other.
Oh, no.
Oh, use hard links. No one checks for hard links.
Oh, talking of that, did you see there was a bullet? I don't know if it's a bulletin or some kind of advice note from, I think it was from Apple, or I can't remember if it was from, it could have been from Dropbox. If you have enabled this the iCloud sync, yeah, that was it. Dropbox issued a warning, I think, saying if you had any kind of symlink or anything in your documents folder and you turned on the Sierra cloud backup, it just deleted your files.
Jesus wept.
See, you can't trust the cloud. Why do we have to keep saying this?
Because the cloud keeps doing stupid stuff.